Good evening, everybody. It is Halloween, and I am going to read William Cooper's Behold the Pale Horse. Have a great night. Here we go. This is Behold the Pale Horse by William Cooper, Chapter 6, HR 4079 and FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Tool that can be used to establish the police state. Patriots and tax protesters. You must never be found at home on any holiday. Your life depends upon how well you can obey that rule. As Bill found out. The following is a transcript of an audio tape with an urgent message to the people from William Cooper on the subject of HR 4079. We must stop the traitors now. William Cooper dictated this information to me by phone early in 1990, and I tape recorded the information as he gave it. I made many tapes and sent them out exactly as Mr. Cooper has asked me to do, and those recipients have done the same. My name is Richard Murray, and I believe that William Cooper is the only man in America outside the secret government who truly knows what is happening and what it means to us, the average American citizens. Begin tape. There's a guy by the name of Buster Horton. He's a member of FEMA, and he's a member of the Interdepartmental Unit, which is empowered in the event of a national security emergency to become the unelected national government, a sort of FEMA secret government, so to speak. A pretext for invoking those emergency measures can be found almost daily in the newspapers. It can be anything from the suspension of debt payments by the high bureaus of American countries to mass runs on US commercial banks. And that's an issue, by the way, that's being handled personally by the National Security Council and Brent Scowcroft, to food shortages, to the drug war. The whole bit, anything, any disaster emergency declared at all, even including the oil spill from the Exxon tanker in Alaska, if the president had declared a national emergency that could have triggered it. Any instability in the Middle East, anything, in fact. And they've already tested their capabilities in April 1984 with Rex 84A. And that was designed to test the readiness of the US civilian and military agencies to respond to a serious national security crisis. Now, the executive order that will implement this, the Executive Order 11051, details responsibilities to the Office of Emergency Planning, or FEMA. It gives authorization to put all executive orders into effect in times of national emergency declared by the president, increased international tension, or economical or financial crisis. Note that it covers every conceivable domestic crisis, but does not even mention war or nuclear attack. Now, the only thing that has to happen for FEMA to be able to implement all the executive orders, emergency executive orders, is for the president to declare a national emergency of any type, as long as it's a national emergency. Executive Order 10995 provides for the takeover of the communications media. Executive Order 10997 provides for the takeover of all electric, power, petroleum, gas, fuels, and minerals. Executive Order 10988 provides for the takeover of food resources and farms. Executive Order 10999 provides for the takeover of all modes of transportation, control of highways, seaports, etc. Executive Order 11000 provides for mobilization of all civilians into work brigades under the government supervision, with no pay, by the way. Executive Order 11001 provides for governmental takeover of all health, education, and welfare functions. Executive Order 11002 designates the Postmaster General to operate a national registration of all persons. Executive Order 11003 provides for the government to take over airports and aircraft. Executive Order 11004 provides for the Housing and Finance Authority to relocate communities, designate areas to be abandoned, and establish new locations for populations. Executive Order 11005 provides for the government to take over railroads, inland waterways, and public storage facilities. Now, all of these were combined under Nixon into one huge executive order, which allows all of this to take place if the president declares a national emergency, and it can be implemented by the head of FEMA, not by the president. The president has already given him that power under these executive orders. All of these were combined into Executive Order 11490, and that was signed by President Carter on July 20th, 1979, and is, in fact, law. So if H.R. 4079 is passed, and the president does what it says and declares a national emergency because of the drug situation, whether it's for 1 year, 5 years, 5 minutes, or forever, it doesn't make any difference. FEMA then can implement all these executive orders, take over all local, state, and national government, suspend the Constitution, and do whatever they want to do. Now, remember what North said during the Iran-Contra hearings. He said that they were prepared to suspend the Constitution of the United States. And he said if it hadn't been for their getting caught, that this would have happened. And all that did was delay it. This is what is still going to happen. Now they've nominated, and I think he's been appointed, Major General Calvin Franklin, who's the head of FEMA. He was nominated because of discussions proposing the removal of the implementation of the National Guard in Washington, D.C. And Major General Franklin is, or was, the commanding general of the District of Columbia National Guard. Now, you've got to know that the National Guard would be of no help at all in combating drug traffic in Washington, D.C. or anywhere else. The primary effectiveness of the National Guard is in controlling mass civil disorders. On March 24th, President Bush issued a new executive order delegating to the director of FEMA powers which were vested in the president by the Disaster Relief and Emergency Assistance Act of 1988. And although the order is described by the White House as simply a technical matter, in reality, the revision delegates to the FEMA director direct responsibility for a large number of items which were earlier only the president's prerogative. And that includes responsibility for general federal assistance, federal emergency assistance, hazard mitigation, individual and family grant programs, and the power to direct other federal agencies to assist in an emergency. And that's the key. All other federal agencies will come under FEMA. Of course, the president retains the power to actually declare an emergency, but as soon as he does that, the implementation of the measures utilized will be transferred directly to the director of FEMA. The brains behind this contingency plan for a police state were the members of the Council on Foreign Relations and the Trilateral Commission, both of which Bush is a member, and Brent Scowcroft, National Security Advisor, who was a member of FEMA's advisory board until he was appointed by Bush to head the NSC, is a member of the Trilateral Commission and also a business partner of Henry Kissinger, who has been a traitor to this country for many, many years. And of course, Scowcroft would become the superior to FEMA in the chain of command of the national security emergency, wherever it is declared. The FEMA Advisory Board is dominated by Professor Samuel P. Huntington. In 1978, Huntington drafted for Jimmy Carter Presidential Memorandum 32, which led to the creation of FEMA in 1979, and he's a Harvard professor. Yeah, all these government agencies, it's unbelievable how many government agencies we have and how many government workers. I wonder how many of them have been laid off in 2020. I suspect not many. I'm going to submit a clip right here, which I think is excellent. And I have to reinforce, bigger government or total government is communism, right here.
What has all this to do with the communist revolution in America? Well, ladies and gentlemen, it has everything to do with it, because the building of socialism is the communist revolution in America. It represents the process whereby our country can be moved gradually toward communism without the people even being aware of it. No matter what grievance we may have, real or imagined, no matter what national problems we may face, the communists seize upon these as excuses to build socialism. They have one and only one solution for all problems: more government, and then more and more until it's total government. And forgive me for saying it one more time, total government is communism.
Okay, back to the page. He wrote the seminal piece for the Trilateral Commission in the mid-1970s, recommending that democracy and economic development be discarded as outdated ideas. He wrote as co-author of the book, Crisis in Democracy, "We have come to recognize that there are potential desirable limits to economic growth. There are also potentially desirable limits to the indefinite extension of political democracy. A government which lacks authority will have little ability short of cataclysmic crisis to impose on its people the sacrifices which may be necessary." All of Huntington's ideas were rewritten into National Security Decision Directive 47, which is in NSDD 47, and that was enacted by President Reagan on July 22, 1982. It identified important areas to be upgraded, such as the nation's industrial base to maintain the national defense, but it nonetheless, and this is very important, laid the groundwork for the secret government's options to institute a police state, and its title is Emergency Mobilization Preparedness. It ordered preparedness measures that involved the waiving or modification of socioeconomic regulations that delay emergency responses and that should receive priority attention. It also specified that preparedness measures that are or may be impeded by legal constraints be identified in the priority task that lays the groundwork for the suspension of the Constitution. Make copies of this tape if you want to. You don't even have to transcribe it if you don't want to, but get this out to the people. It is important that they understand that if HR 4079 is passed, they're history. They won't pass it if we get this out to the people and tell them that this is what they're doing. Most people don't even know about it, and that's to the secret government's benefit. If we get this out and tell people what they're doing, then people can get on the phone and then go down and kick their congressman's ass, which is what they should have been doing years ago, and get this thing thrown out of Congress. And the next thing they need to do is throw their congressmen and their senators out of Congress and keep them out of Congress and put their neighbors in there, people they can trust, and keep them in there for only one term. The Constitution is in serious danger. This has nothing to do with the right wing, left wing, or any other damn thing. It has to do with the Illuminati taking over this country and joining in the New World Order. When you give this out to people, make sure they agree to make 10 copies and send them to all their friends. End of tape. I decided that the transcript of this tape says it all. Why write it again? HR 4079. As of this writing, HR 4079 is still in committee and has not been subjected to a vote. It is one of the most deceptive and dangerous pieces of legislation to go in front of Congress in many years. It must be stopped at all costs. You must call your representative and stop this bill. HR 4079 has included within its pages 2 provisions that are meant to divert attention from the fact that the bill would declare a state of national emergency for 5 years and would allow FEMA to literally take over local, state, and federal government. This means that the Constitution of the United States could be suspended. The diversions used are terrible if allowed to sneak through. One is a clause that would eliminate the 4th Amendment to the Constitution, and the other would eliminate the 8th Amendment to the Constitution. The diversion would cause heated argument over these 2 provisions, resulting in some sort of compromise while allowing the declaration of a 5-year state of national emergency to sail right through Congress and become signed into law. If that happens, it's goodbye USA, hello New World Order. Call your congressman and insist that he or she deliver into your hands a complete copy of HR 4079 immediately. Do not take no for an answer. Read it and defeat it. Added before press time, H.R. 4079 may have been secretly passed just as SB 2834 was passed, and H.R. 4079 may be public law. 101-647 signed into law by President Bush on November 29, 1990. If this has occurred, then we are already subject to a FEMA takeover. I am attempting to acquire a copy of PL 101-647. This late-breaking news was furnished by a congressional staff member and has not been verified as of January 8th, 1991. These are the sources. Okay, I'm going to stop here. The next section goes into national emergency total takeover and FEMA camps. And there's a lot of news coming out of Canada recently about how they're setting up their version of FEMA camps right now, and the government's denying it even though they've already published reports on it. There's no doubt in my mind the United States has FEMA camps already created. It's just everybody's too asleep to even know what's going on. Okay, well, you folks have a great night. I'll get into that next section in the next video. Peace.